Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. Today I'll be breaking down the first week of December. As you can see, it is an NFP week, and as I've written here, December first week was a very good week, hands down. Pretty much every day we got the trade, but obviously we only took it in the most high probability days. So follow your plan and strategy and you will be profitable 100%. It was a very beautiful week, meaning every day, like every other day, we were getting a trade according to our daily bias. But we don't trade every day, right? We know we only trade with the high probability setups, and we risk a good amount so that we are pro form traders, so we have to adapt to that conditions right there. So now, before doing the analysis, let me show you the news. Monday there was ISM manufacturing PMI. Tuesday JOLTS job opening, ADP non-farm employment on Wednesday. Thursday was a Fed Chair Powell and unemployment claims, and Friday was NFP. So it was an NFP week. Doesn't mean that we will not trade. Obviously we will look for trades. There is always going to be high impact news, so we have to adapt to the conditions. So on the weekly time frame, we can clearly see the market is going to the downside. The trend is bearish, but the bias is bullish, if it makes sense. I have explained it in the previous video, I believe. The weekly has a trend and bias, right? The trend can be bearish, like lower highs, lower lows, but the bias, whenever the market is going down, is bearish. Whenever the market is going up, lower high, it's bullish. So we trade the bias. So we know that the market moves in cycles, lower highs, lower lows, higher lows. So according to that, we adapt. So now it's looking like next week is gonna be a bullish week to make a lower high, because the price has been stretched to the downside so much. We are not predicting that. The price is telling me that. I am not saying that, right? The price is saying that. I am only saying what I'm looking at the price. Like what I'm understanding, that is what I'm saying. So the weekly bias is clearly bullish on GBP USD. On DXY, it should be the opposite, which is bearish, and it was beautifully bearish. Not bearish, but beautifully bearish. It is also now so much stretched to the upside, and the price was literally trading between this low and this high, this bullish solidified range for a year almost, right? For a year almost, and then now finally it is broken structure to the upside. So yeah, obviously I'm looking for sells on DXY, meaning I will trade the daily bias, but on the weekly it's looking like it's at the end of the week it's going to the downside. So we have to keep that information in mind, and also there is a fair value gap to fill. So keeping that in mind, yeah, it was a very clear weekly candle. So now we go to the daily time frame to look for daily bias, and my weekly bias is bullish, daily bias is bullish, daily change character to the upside, demand, supply, fair value gaps, and if I'm bullish, then I will target this fair value gap to get filled. Simple as that, right? And on DXY, the opposite should be true, but let's see if it is or not. So on DXY, the change of character happened to the downside, and now we can anticipate a lower high or lower low, but I don't predict the lower high. If the price shows me that it's going up, that is when I will trade to the upside. But as of now, it is clearly showing like it's going to the downside to fill up this daily fair value gap, and we will anticipate that to be true. And now I'm looking for sells on DXY, and that will be buys on GBP USD. So that is when I go to the H4 and look for some sort of break of structure. There is a H4 break of structure right there, and also on the H1. On the H1, there is a beautiful demand zone right around here on the M30. Not one of the beautifulest demand zone, but obviously at the first of the week I was looking for a buy from this sort of demand right here, but this demand was not respected. As you can see, that was already mitigated by the Asian range. So according to the Asian range, I decide my zones, right? So now according to how this Asian range closed, my bias was clearly bullish. The price has gone to the downside, yes, but now I am looking for a demand zone from this sort of area right around here, which was M5 demand zone right here. As you can see, lower highs, lower lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, change of character right here, M5 demand zone, a beautiful M5 demand zone. That is when I anticipated to look for a trade. The price first went up, swept the Asian high. That doesn't change nothing. That doesn't change my bias. Yes, I could have taken a sell here. I have literally explained this trade in very depth. You can watch that in that video. And we caught this trade after this change of character on the M5, and we entered at the OT level, as you can see, and it was a winner. It was a 1:3. If I follow my rules, if I follow my plan, and I only trade with my bias, and sometimes also trade against the bias like this, right? This sell was valid, and I could have taken this in my first phase. In my first phase, I will tend to take these trades more because I want to pass them faster or blow them faster, so that I don't waste my time. And these trades, it doesn't mean that this trade doesn't work. At the end of the day, the market will either go up or down, right? And we know when the market gives the move the most. So if we can predict if it's going up or down, we can make a beautiful return on that market. So that is exactly what I wanted to tell show it to you guys in this trade. So Monday we caught a beautiful buys. I have also journaled the trade. You guys can watch that video, and yeah, you guys will learn a lot more about this trade on that video. So now going on Tuesday, my bias is again bearish. There is Joel's job opening news as you can see right around here, and now my bias changed, right? My bias on Monday was bullish. Look for buys. Now according to how this Monday candle close, my bias is bearish now. So I adapt to the market like water. So obviously even on DXY it was looking like a bullish candle on Monday, so I was looking for buys, and on DXY, on GU it would be sells. So that is when I go to the H4. H4 also now changed character to the downside. Beautiful change of character. That is when I go to the H1 and look for some sort of supply zones, which was there. A beautiful supply zone. Waited for the Asian range to close, because I always wait for the Asian range to close. And after the Asian range closed, the first supply zone that was here, which was made on New York session, as you can see, the first supply zone was not respected at all. To be honest, I took a trade. I took a loss here. Not took a loss as in like, if I was going with the purely with my strategy, I would have not taken this trade. There was M15 supply zone, previous structural liquidity sweep, Asian high liquidity sweep, supply zone mitigation. I have seen this trade work a lot of times in the past, right? Just a small mitigation and then head towards the downside. We don't know where the smart money has put their orders, so we have to anticipate. I took the first trade here, if it makes sense. I took a trade here, and this was a loss. I have also explained this video, and I have also journaled this video, so you can watch that video also. So I will not show you that. So let me show you the trade. It was a beautiful trade again on London session. You can notice one thing, right? All of these trades are coming in my session, in my time window. I only take a trade in my time window. As you can see, it was a beautiful sell opportunity from here. M5 change of character, entered at this 14 pip stop loss, but the stop loss was very big on this day. Just because the stop loss was very big, that was a red flag. Otherwise this trade was a very beautiful trade. Everything we want to see in a trade was here. So much of liquidity got swept. Asian high, previous structural liquidity, previous days London session high, which is also the supply zone got manipulated, and then a move from some sort of fair value gap right around here, some sort of H1 fair value gap right around here. It was a very clean trade. To be honest, I would have taken this trade any day. Even in the live markets, if I see something like that, I am taking that regardless. So now going on to Wednesday, there is NFP news, which is ADP non-farm employment change. And yeah, going on Wednesday, my bias still remains bearish. Not one of the cleanest, but still remain bearish because of how they candle close. And when I go to DXY, it makes my bias even stronger, being bullish on DXY, which is bearish on GBP USD. So on the H4, we can clearly see the change of character happened, and this supply zone on the H4 is getting kind of respected right here. And that is when I go to the H1, and on the H1 I wait for the Asian range to close, and after the Asian range closes, I look for some sort of supply zones, and the supply zone that I could spot as of now was this H1 supply zone right here. Why? I was anticipating this high here to be used as previous structural liquidity, this London high to be used as previous structural liquidity, this fair value gap to fill as a form of liquidity, so much of liquidity sweep, H1 supply mitigation, and then a move to the downside. So this trade right here was making so much of sense to me, and I have also taken this trade, but there was a red flag. The previous structural liquidity got swept, yeah, but this move happened from fair value gap. So what I have learned from this, from the recent backtest I have been doing, is the price doesn't need to always go towards the zone. It can make a move from the fair value gap, and we have to be very adaptable in the markets. As you can see, there was a fair value gap here. Previous structural liquidity got swept, so enough liquidity now got swept. And when we see what we want to see in the lower time frames, which is the rejection, here we can see the M15 change character, M5 change character, beautiful change of character right here on the M5. Higher lows, higher highs, Asian high got swept. This was the MAC model, as you can see. Also the change of character exactly happened at our timing. So whenever the MAC model appears in my timing, that is when I take the trade. For MAC model to be valid, we need the change of character to happen at the time window is open, like in this trade. Like my time window started here, and the change of character also happened there, so it was a valid trade right there. But I would have not taken this trade on the live markets because the supply zone was so quick. Like the supply zone was here, I would anticipate this to be the inducement and then take a trade to the downside according to Sal Sanchez. But according to Rob Dono, I would have taken this trade. So let's see which one I like the most, and I will switch it. Like I will twitch my strategy a bit. It was a beautiful trade, literally beautiful price action. December first week, our setup is occurring so frequently. Yes. So now this was a winner trade again. The beautiful rejection happened. The 76.8% retracement happened to the T, and then a beautiful rejection. And yeah, this trade was also a winner, but on Wednesday there was ADP news also, so we also have to keep that in mind. So what I anticipated here was my supply zone, right? I have marked a supply zone right there. So the supply zone that I wanted to trade from on H1 still makes sense to be traded because it's still valid. This trade is still valid, but I want this London session high to be swept as liquidity, to be swept as previous structural liquidity, and then on New York session might be we can get a move, which exactly happened to the T. But look, the supply zone that I've marked did got respected because this is not the supply zone that I've marked. This is the supply zone that the price has shown me that huge sellers came in from this area. So I am just adapting to the markets. I am not doing anything. I am not making any discretionary zones or discretionary decisions right here. What the price is showing to me, according to that, I'm adapting to the market conditions, and literally it's working. Every time I mark a zone, it literally works. Even if I don't take a trade, that zone ends up working, right? Just it's a matter of if I am taking the trade in my time window or not. If I'm not, then I lose, and if I get the trade in time window, I will take it. If I don't, I don't. Simple as that. So now going on Thursday, so this was the Wednesday for you guys. Obviously when I was backtesting, I understood the market conditions so well, but now because I'm making a video, I can't explain it so thoroughly, right? I can only show you I can only give you a quick summary so that yeah, I understand that. So no problem. If you want to understand this kind of market situations or conditions, in what conditions you should do what you should do, you have to do the backtesting yourself and you have to learn it yourself. Sorry, but that's the bottom line. Nobody can teach you more than your own experiences. So going on Thursday, my bias is bullish on GBP USD, and on DXY my bias was not clear. So this is when I don't trade. You need to know when you should trade and when you shouldn't trade. Going on Thursday, the bias was not clear, so we decided to not trade and wait for Thursday to play out. Knowing this, having this information is so beneficial, because if you know when to trade and when to not trade in the markets, that's like a hack in the markets, right? Obviously on DXY the bias was not clear, it was bearish, but if I was trading with the weekly bias, my weekly bias was bearish on DXY. So whenever my daily bias is not clear and I trade with the weekly bias, and that works, bro. I have seen it so many times, and even in this example it worked. My daily bias was a doji, but on the weekly it was bearish, so I was looking for sales on DXY, and on the weekly it was bullish for GBP USD, so I was looking for buys on GBP USD, which would have been work. But this trade here was a continuation model, I believe. That's why I didn't take the trade. Yes, it was a very, very huge continuation model. As you can see, I would have not taken this trade, I believe. The London session literally went up, came down, and then yes, I could have bought a quick buy right here, to be honest. The move happened at our time window, as you can see, beautiful move happened, but I didn't took the trade. Simple as that. Just because the bias was not clear, I didn't took the trade. Now going on Friday, my bias is again bullish. According to how this candle closed, the weekly bias is clearly bullish, so now it is aligned with the weekly bias being bullish, right? So GU has already aligned with the weekly bias being bullish, so it is very high probability to trade. And also on Friday, Thursday was a Fed Chair Powell and unemployment claims. Friday is NFP, so we have to be very, very careful. So because NFPs, most probably NFPs, I have seen it gets manipulated, so it gets manipulated badly. So now going on Friday, my bias is bearish on DXY and bullish on GBP USD, right? So that is when I go to the H4. The same drill, the previous week high has been swept, the change of character to the upside has been happened here, right around here, and yeah, that is when I go to the H1, and I marked this demand zone to trade from that demand zone right there. I waited for the Asian range to close, and after the Asian range closed, I wanted something like this. I wanted to see something like this zone here to be used as previous structural liquidity, and this demand zone to be a beautiful move from here. But I have also noticed one thing, like we don't get our perfect trade setups every single time in the markets, right? We have to adapt to the market conditions. There was the M15 demand right here, which also didn't got mitigated, I believe. So this was a trade from a continuation model. Even the Asian low didn't got swept. If the Asian low got swept, I would have taken this trade. A beautiful MAC model just on Friday. Just the red flag was the Asian low didn't got swept. Otherwise everything was there. I would have taken this trade. Change of character, I would have also journaled this trade if it happened. It happened after the Asian low sweep. So it also shows us that if the change of character is happening at our time window, and we can enter the trade, then we can catch a beautiful trade here. As you can see, this was a low that goes this high, change of character, entered at the equilibrium with the 8 pip stop loss, targeted the previous day high, got our 1:3. Beautiful trade, right? A beautiful trade even on Friday. So basically what I'm trying to say is this strategy is working so well. If the market conditions are good, this strategy works so well. So these are the callouts. As you can see, you can have a quick look. For MAC model to be valid, we need to change of character to happen after the time window is open, obviously, like it did on Friday. And here, after our first position got induced, it was so clean to take the trade again because it was aligning all the pairs and enough liquidity has been swept to make the move to the downside. Yes, and also fair value gap trades works too. If enough liquidity has been swept, fair value gap trades works too. But you have to compare, or you have to align it with other pairs. That's it. Here the mid time frame rejection was so clean, but the lower time frame entry model was missing, so I would have not taken this trade on the higher time frames. Monday was a beautiful MAC model with the bias being bullish, and also there was no beautiful zone to trade from, so we could have taken a MAC model right there. So this was the weekly breakdown for you guys. This week was genuinely, after a long time, a beautiful week. Every single day, every alternative day, we caught a move, and we could have caught a move. It was a beautiful trade. So now going on the next week, let's see what my bias is, and I will also journal the next week today, and I will make the video today and give it to you guys. So stay tuned for that. And this weekly fair value gap is now filled, and yeah, bosh.